It's going to make sure they have ammunition. The way these guns function is they are flintlocks and they are smooth bore. So a flintlock means this piece of flint strikes this steel face, causing a spark to fall in this little metal pan right here. That's how this gun fires. Those sparks are going to hit a charge of gunpowder. That powder will explode and ignite the main charge of powder inside the barrel. So that's how these fire. They are smooth bore. They are not rifled, meaning when you fire them, they don't have a series of spiral grooves that will cause the bullet to spin. The barrel is basically just a metal pipe. You need a man-sized target with these out to about 100 yards. So that's typically the distance at which soldiers were fighting in the 18th century. So,
close in front, march. On right wheel, march.
What these soldiers are doing right now is marching in close order. Every man touching the man next to him, and they're all stepping on the same foot at the same time. In this era of linear tactics, when you're all this close together, it's important you can do everything in a way that's synchronized. That way you're not going to bump into your friends, your fellow soldiers on either side of you. The officers you can do as your officers tell you when they need you to do it. Now, you guys might wonder, why would you cram yourselves together so close if you're being shot at? Well, bullets are a great danger on the battlefield, but especially in fighting in Europe, there's a lot of cavalry, and if you spread out, you will be cut to ribbons by a cavalry charge. So, most typically, the European soldiers will deploy in close order to fight. The British Army does this at the beginning of the American Revolution, but their tactics do adapt, and I'll get to that fairly soon. So, what they're about to do for you now is fire in 3 ranks. This is the most typical European way of fighting in the 18th century, and the British do this at the very, very beginning of the Revolutionary War. So, when they load, they're going to take a paper cartridge, a paper tube that's got everything you need to load and fire. Inside of it, it's got to have a charge of gunpowder and a musket ball. Bite off the tail, pour a little bit of powder into their pan, shut the pan, cast the piece about, pour the remaining powder down the barrel, ram it down with their steel rammer, and return the rammer. Once that happens, they are loaded and ready to fire. They will bring their musket up to signal that they are loaded.
Mike, ready.
They will fire. The British Army is the best in Europe at loading and firing quickly. A trained British soldier can load and fire his musket once every 10 to 15 seconds. And this 3-rank firing allows them to stack up an enormous amount of firepower in a small area. You'll notice the man in the front kneels. So the barrel of the rearmost man's musket will clear his head, and he doesn't shoot the men in front of him. But this is what the British do when they're fighting in Europe and at the very beginning of the Revolutionary War. Their tactics change fairly early on. The British Army is small, only about 40,000 men. That's why they had to hire Hessian mercenaries, or not exactly mercenaries, but Hessian soldiers to fight during the Revolution. So now they're at the open order. At the open order, the British would still fight, firing volleys. This distance between each man not only spreads your line out so you can cover a wider front, it allows musket balls to pass through. And when you maneuver at the open order, you're not always marching in lockstep, so it's easier to maneuver in this way.
March.
So now they're going to the extended order, a few paces between each file or pairs of men. So, you'll notice now they are not firing in volleys. They have commenced fire. One man will fire, then reload. Once the first man is reloaded, the next man will fire. This way you keep up a steady fire against your enemy, but there's always a loaded musket pointed towards them. So, this is something the British do quite commonly on the American battlefields of the Revolutionary War. There's not much cavalry, so they're not really in danger from that. And there's a lot of cover on American battlefields. America has much more broken ground, deep forests and mountains than Europe.